How the Memory may be improved, from Mind, Matter and Motion, with Directions for Good Health in Old Age, by Adam Miller. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Without memory, our lives would be a dreary waste, the past would be a blank, the present a fretful and perplexing hour. Without a recollection of the past, we would find very little encouragement in looking into the future. With the storehouse of our memories well filled with past events, many pleasant scenes of our past lives are brought in review before us. Even our sufferings and disappointments, when recollected in connection with the relief that may have come to us, and our deliverance from the apparent accidents and dangers to which we found ourselves exposed, all have a tendency to encourage us for the future. A recollection that the same or similar help may come to us in the future that sustained us in the past will enable us to move forward in the struggles of life and trust in the same powers and forces for protection that sustained us in the past. All persons are endowed with this faculty, but some in a much higher degree than others. While there are natural endowments, and some have much better memories than others, it is undeniably true that by neglecting to exercise and cultivate this faculty, it becomes enfeebled; while, on the other hand, by a proper course of training and a systematic exercise, the memory may be strengthened beyond the highest conceptions of those who have not made suitable and systematic efforts in this direction. The reason why many persons in advanced years complain of a feeble memory is an inattention to the common concerns of life, and a want of effort to treasure up the ordinary occurrences. The idea of many that because they have lived a certain number of years, and arrived at an age where the mental faculties generally become enfeebled, has caused many to feel prematurely old, and a general loss of bodily and mental vigour follows a determination that it must be so, because it is the natural order of things. Many live and finally go down to their graves without being aware of the wonderful undeveloped powers they possessed, which, if they had been properly cultivated, would have contributed much to the support of the physical organism. There is such an intimate connection between the body and the mind that the lack of a proper treatment of the one will unfavourably affect the other. We have gymnastics for physical culture, and find from experience and observation that much is gained by a proper exercise in muscular development. The memory is more susceptible to improvement by proper exercise and training than the body. It is that which possesses the body, and is destined to survive its final dissolution and decay. The dweller in the house is of more importance than the house. So the mind of man, of which memory is a part, is of more importance than the body in which it dwells. We talk of a mind well stored with knowledge, but we must not forget that memory is the storekeeper, and not only holds the key to the storehouse, but arranges all the shelves and drawers and the different compartments for storing away the treasure accumulated by mental efforts. The mind selects and brings in the treasures, sometimes secures them by hardest toil and perilous efforts. The memory takes the treasures and stores them away on different and appropriate shelves, or in different drawers, and so marks them and the place where they are deposited, that they can be looked at any time when they are wanted. What advantage would we have in the accumulation of wealth in silver and gold and diamonds and other precious things that make men rich, if we brought them home and handed them over to our steward or servant for safe keeping, and he put them where they never could be found? Suppose a man had millions on millions of treasures hidden in this way that he nor no one else could ever find. What advantage would they be to him? None. He might say, I have lost them because I have not provided a proper place to store them away. I had no systematic arrangement in my treasure house, and now they are forever beyond my reach. In this way, from a want of a properly arranged house to store away the treasures of the mind, thousands of precious gems have been lost. We may deeply regret the loss, but this will not return to us the lost treasures. The only safe and proper way is to guard against these losses in the future. Why have safes with various compartments been invented, with bars and bolts and locks, but to protect our goods from the hands of the thief and the robber, and also with a view to have them at our command at a moment's notice for our use? The thief of time is watching us every hour to snatch away the accumulations for our mental toil. Much has been taken from us and laid in the grave of oblivion, but there are still vast outlying fields where we can gather more, and there are means provided to keep our gathered treasures securely. But someone advanced in years may say, I am too old to commence building a storehouse to treasure up my mental wares. You need not build a new house. The old one is good enough if you will only go to work and make some repairs. And when you begin this repairing process, you will be surprised to find how easy the task will be. The sweeping out of a few dark corners of the old building will soon throw light over other parts. The opening of a few windows will let in the light and make everything cheerful about the old homestead, where the higher nature has long dwelt in gloom and sadness because the house was so much out of repair. How sad it is to think that thousands of persons, when they arrive at the age of 45 or 50 years, think that their time of improvement is past, and under this impression they neglect mental culture, and with this neglect the body soon becomes like a house uncared for. We build the house we live in, that is, our inner and higher nature to such an extent controls organic matter so as to build up and nourish those parts most suited for mental activity, where no other abnormal or disturbing agencies interfere. This is especially true in reference to the growth and development of the brain, which is the seat of mental power. Proper training not only improves the mind, but enlarges the dwelling place where the mind resides, acts, and operates. The bright, expressive, and speaking eye, the elevated forehead, the intelligent features, all indicate an intelligent working power or force superintending the material organization. This working force in the intellectual realm is under the control of the human will. If we determine that the mind shall lie dormant, and the memory shall become feeble and inactive from a want of proper exercise, the inevitable results will follow. On the other hand, if we determine that the memory shall be retentive, and that the shelves in our memory's storehouse shall keep our deposited treasures, we have only to keep these shelves and drawers in good order, and have our deposits so marked and labelled as to find them at any time we may wish to use them. If we can not immediately find the key to unlock our repository and find the gems of thought and all the beautiful and useful things of the past, we must tie a string to the treasure and keep the string in view, and when we get bewildered and confused, we can follow up the string or wind it up into a ball till it leads up to our repository and to the very drawer or shelf where our treasures may be found. If we have many shelves in memory's storehouse and a great variety of different things stowed away, and these of different qualities, and require many strings by which to trace our way to our hidden treasures, we can very easily attach a mark or place a label on the end of each string, each separate mark directing us to the object we wish to find. There are many plain and simple things that the mind may be placed on and that the memory can retain that may be well compared to a single thread, and by association of one thing with another, either from a striking similarity or dissimilarity, the thread may be followed by winding it into a ball or unwinding it from a ball. As an illustration of following up the thread, we will commence with a white woolen thread. The wool leads up to the sheep. The sheep is an emblem of innocence. Here we come into a large field. Innocence, playfulness, pastures, flocks, woolen garments, cold weather, blankets, carpets, and ornamented parlours. Or, if we wish to run in another direction, the thread will lead us to mutton, to a good dinner, to the dinner party, to the names of those present, to their conversation, and many other things we may wish to bring in review before us. A silk thread will lead us to the silkworm, the mulberry tree, the manufacturing establishment, the silk dress, the beautiful lady that we saw wearing it, her sparkling eye, her wit, her diamonds, her language, home, fortunes or misfortunes, all from the end of a small silk thread. A cotton thread will lead us to the cotton fields, the spinning and weaving, the factory girls employed in the mills, the great variety of cotton goods, the sails of ships, a trip across the ocean, the commerce of different and distant countries, the ties that bind nations in one common brotherhood. A linen thread will conduct us back to the field where flax grows, to the spinning and weaving of linen, to Irish linen, to the thousands of toilers who produce the beautiful fabric, to the weaver of the linen, to the rags of worn-out garments, to the paper mill that manufactures the rags to paper, to the beautiful white letter paper on which our correspondence to loved ones may be written. A hemp string leads to the fields, the rope walks where it is manufactured into cords and ropes, to the rigging of a ship, hauling and directing the sails, carrying the commerce of the world to their destined ports. A red or scarlet thread will lead us to something fiery or intense, ardent, high-tempered, wars and bloodshed, or such things as will incite or inflame the passions. A blue thread will lead one's mind up to the pale blue sky, in which the clouds are floating, and behind which the stars and planets appear to us to be pursuing their nightly march. We think of distance and magnitude, of time measured off by their revolutions, and in bewildering amazement we are led to the infinite power that controls and directs all things from an infinite purpose. A white thread is the emblem of innocence and purity. It leads us to the lily of the valley, flourishing near by the rose of Sharon. This will bring to the mind a train of beautiful and lovely things. How delightful in the stillness of the night to take hold of the beautiful white thread and begin to wind it up into a ball, or follow it back along the path we have travelled until we get back to the days of youth and childhood, and have the innocent amusements of our younger years pass in review before us. The tear of sorrow may start from the eye at the recollection of friends long since gone from us. But even this opening of the fountains of affection may bring relief in the hour of affliction. A black thread may lead us into the dark, but darkness is not always dismal. It is necessary for us as well as light. Long winter evenings bring us many comforts that we could not have under the rays of the burning sun. It is true we might travel along the line of a dark thread into dismal and gloomy regions, but we should always prefer to go along the line of the pleasant and the beautiful, to feed the memory on that which will give us higher views of our lives and destinies. The questions may arise in the minds of some, what will be the advantage of all this? What can I do without an active memory to follow up these different threads? We can easily see where the advantage of such a mental exercise is found. It is an effort to build up and strengthen the memory, or prepare the different shelves in this storehouse for repositories of our mental wares. Instead of leaving the mind a vacant blank, and tossing restless upon our beds in the stillness of the night, we may start the wheels of memory running backward over the past, and stop at the different way stations with such delight and pleasure that we will soon be lulled to sleep, perchance to dream some pleasant dreams, and awake with better opinions of life than when our minds were blank and the shelves of our memory storehouses in a dilapidated condition. Now we would advise anyone in lonely hours to take hold of the end of a string, one of those we have referred to, the white, for instance, and start back in a contemplative mood, and stop to linger a while around every point of innocence, beauty, and purity. Then let it stretch out into the future. Follow it up and on until it reaches within the very gates of the celestial city. Or, if you do not wish to go quite so far just now, then take another thread and follow it along the line of which it is emblematical. Do not hasten too fast from one point to another. When you find some event in your past life, linger around it as long as pleasant memories continue to come up, in groups or single, and then pass on to other points. And in this way the scenes of the past will come up in succession as old associates that had appeared lost to you and entirely faded from your memory. To those who have never made an effort to recollect the scenes of the past by such associations, it will be surprising to find the mind pictures like beautiful panoramas pass in review before them. The memory is like the blacksmith's arm, which has grown strong from using it. There is no faculty of the human mind so susceptible of improvement as the memory, and none so much neglected. Some persons are naturally endowed with good memories, while others are deficient and must depend on culture for improvement. Before letters were invented for the purpose of recording the events of life and our historic narratives, the memory must have been much stronger than it is now. The transactions and constantly recurring events of life had to be carried in the memory instead of recorded in books. Many of the historical narratives now found in books of history, both sacred and profane, must have been preserved in the storehouse of memory for ages before they were permanently recorded in books now found in our libraries. There are many marvellous instances on record of extraordinary memories among the ancients. It would be out of place here to enter into a detailed account of the different prodigies of memory. Speeches were committed from once having been heard. Lectures, poems, and the most difficult problems the human mind can grapple with have been retained in the memory from having only once heard them repeated. But these are rare instances, and not a common inheritance of mankind. The amount of memory we have is a natural endowment, or a working capital on which we can improve to a marvellous extent. With every advancement we make, we increase our stock in trade, and add to our wealth which no thief can steal, and no wreck of earthly fortune can destroy. End of How the Memory May be Improved, by Adam Miller. Read by Ruth Golding.